This is a conversation with my good friend Bobby. He has traveled all over the world, including many, many places in the US and several places in Europe. This conversation focuses on his travels in South America and very specifically on his experiences and adventures in ayahuasca centers, which we could easily talk about for 10 hours in a row. But this is a small sample of his thoughts and answers to my questions, an overview of his experiences there. I hope you find it informative and interesting as I have, and I hope this conversation is the first of many that we will have for various podcasts. Hope you enjoy. South America.
Overview of South America?
Yeah. Your prompt is South America.
My prompt is South America. South America should be one united nation from Mexico to Chile. And I forget what the name of it should be, but that's what Simón Bolívar wanted, I think. The South American continent is beautiful, and there's so much to see, and you have to know Spanish to really unlock it, and then you have to know Portuguese to unlock the whole thing. But you can learn it when you go there. I learned Spanish mostly from listening to shamans talk about the earth and talk really slowly and intentionally about like easy things to understand, fire and like that kind of thing, basic nouns, basic verbs. I went to South America for my long trip because my life had kind of changed drastically during COVID, and I went back to New Orleans to do more tree work, and that was kind of not going the way I wanted. I was owed a lot of money. This is the second part of me like receiving money while I was gone. My boss owed me a bunch of money. I said, that's enough. I don't need you to owe me any more money. I'm taking what I have. I'm going to go on another adventure because I don't have, any ties right now again. So my first idea was to sail. So I started looking for opportunities for someone to teach me how to sail so I could live on a boat. It was really hard to find the right one of those. I still want to cross the Atlantic in a boat, but in order to have someone welcome you onto their boat, they want more experience. And it's like, where do you get that initial experience with knowing how to sail? So I was looking for that and not finding it.
They want boat experience, yes.
They want you to know how to sail a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, before they're like, let's start sailing around the Caribbean together. No,
Reasonable.
Big surprise, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, I broadened my scope, and I was looking on Help Exchange for sailing gigs, and so I broadened that, and I found an ayahuasca center in Ecuador that said basically, come for I think the full 3 months of your visa and stay here. You get every month you get a weekend to go travel elsewhere. We feed you all your meals. You'll be with 20 other volunteers, and you get to take ayahuasca 3 times a week. And I was like, let's go. So I went to do that.
So you, previous to this, had been a hobbyist in psychedelics, and perhaps that's not the term of art exactly, but presumably at no other point in your life had you been taking ayahuasca 3 times a week. It's a lot of ayahuasca. Indeed. Over a long period of time. Do you remember how you felt about going in there? I know for me, I would be borderline terrified, kind of jumping off a cliff kind of a feeling.
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking. I got really clean before I went, though, and that's what they want. I cleaned my diet. I was off sugar and caffeine and felt good. I felt ready. I was taking it seriously. I've always taken mushrooms seriously, and I wanted to open that door in the right way, to not just go in there thinking I understood everything. And I was nervous to take it. I didn't want to take ayahuasca the first week that I was there. We were talking a lot about it, They were trying to, because we were going to be helping people in ceremony, having never taken ayahuasca before, And the first ayahuasca ceremony that I saw, I think made me feel like I was ready to take ayahuasca. Because I saw some people have hard times. I saw some people have really lovely times. But ultimately, I watched people drink it. I watched people go through it. And I understood what I was getting into finally. But until I saw a ceremony, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this quite yet. It's like a call, right? A lot of people say you get called to take ayahuasca and you all of a sudden start thinking about it. and it was almost like I think there was a psychedelic trip I had that was more of a call to look deeper into medicine, but watching the ceremony was the call of like, this is for you, like this is the time for you to do this. So the next opportunity I had the chance to take it, I did take it. Before I took the ayahuasca at the center, though, I took San Pedro, which is mescaline cactus. They offered both, and then in the sweat lodge we would take both of those medicines together. So started with the San Pedro, then did an ayahuasca ceremony, and then the sweat lodge with both. And I think I did 3 sweat lodges in total, and 11 times with ayahuasca during the trip.
You are a very good interview subject. You're great at succinctly answering questions, passing on the mic.
Thank you.
I guess this is what happens when you're not terrified of being on camera.
Yeah. Cameras are cool. They're everywhere and watching us.
They are. Some people, I guess, don't have that in their mind, and I think a lot of people get camera shy. It's pretty often.
Put a dog ear in this page and come right back to it so I can say something crazy?
Please, yeah.
So like in regards to there being cameras anymore, if at any point in the future or in the past a species invents a technology that allows them to see everything that's ever happened in the past, that allows them to observe, even if they can't time travel, but like a technology that generates based on the state of the universe, prior states of the universe. If that technology is ever created, then it means every moment you've ever lived is up for grabs. It can be viewed, it can be seen and understood, it can be listened to. So it's a trippy thought for me. Finding really trippy thoughts are interesting, right? So that idea that like if this ever occurs at any point in the future anywhere, if this moment is interesting enough, it doesn't matter that camera is on. Like it could be just as public, just as viewable.
More public.
More public, infinitely more, yeah. But anyway, in as regards cameras.
There's it seems like that whatever kind of a model or a philosophy of being constantly watched is there's many theories or approaches to it, but it seems like a good thing to wrestle with on some level or another, even if it is just security cameras being everywhere. But the idea of God constantly watching you is a thing. Just the idea of the social eye, that you are watched by other people, which you are, is a thing. Watched by yourself to some degree. And
God is a judge. Like just the concept of God as it has evolved and become the way that we see it now in America. There's so many versions of God, but there's so much overlap. I like the idea even that like that collection of consciousnesses from the future who are surveying the entire past are the judge, like as a collective are the judge and are God. It would give them the ability to be a judgmental God. Like I can't really conceive of an actual God as an all-powerful, all-knowing being judgmental, but technological consciousnesses from the future who have the ability to look into the past, that could absolutely be like a terrifying judgmental God as they like scan the past and analyze and judge beings.
Yeah, so I mean the concept.
So anyway, ayahuasca.
the idea of all of these things does make you feel self-conscious and does make you feel judged, and sort of the holy fire of God does wash away your sins in the way that you feel self-conscious and you think, oh damn, like this is a bad part of me that needs to be changed somehow. And the holy fire of ayahuasca is famous for doing exactly that. But security cameras, you feel self-conscious, right? And that's not something like God. Unfortunately, the government is not, as holy and upright as we wish it would be,
I like to, as a thought exercise, actually just imagine that everyone can read my thoughts. And if I have some wild thought or if I think something absurd or embarrassing, I just imagine that everyone could see and hear that. And what if I just didn't care? What if everyone could hear each other's thoughts and they just understood that people's minds are racing, that we're these strange creatures, we think and do and say and act weird and crazy all the time. What if we just, accepted that everything was public, everything was viewable, and everything was known, And on that basis, perhaps, like, everything could be forgiven because everyone is in that state of being, like, constantly observed and constantly perceived and known, and just say, I don't care, you know. But I see what you mean about, like, it highlights what you think is wrong, because you might be like, oh, I was embarrassed about that. That must mean it was wrong, or that I should be working on that, or I should be better about that. And maybe there is a fire to get better in that understanding too, of being like, oh, well, at least I can recognize in myself that was an unsavory thought, and then I can direct my thoughts. I can choose my thoughts. I can steer my thoughts, because your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits. And so
if it starts at your thoughts, then you better get those right.
You got to get your thoughts right. Absolutely.
This is the conventional Christian concept of God, that he can sort of look in your head, the American Christian concept of God, the modern evangelical concept of God, that he is kind of reading your God, because like you said, there's so many ideas of what God is throughout history and culture, you know. But and that I think you know, unfortunately, a lot of times it just gives people guilt. But sort of the positive version would be people clean up their thoughts a little bit and are just more conscious of that fact. So it sounds like even if it's not true that people can read your thoughts, it's a good belief to have. It's a healthy belief. Get your thoughts right. And I think it was Tolley maybe who had this analogy of, you know, you walk down the street and you see some, you know, homeless schizophrenic drug addict who's just rambling about nonsense, but that, like, the difference between them and you mostly is that they're doing it out loud. And the rest of us are just able to keep our mouths shut. But, you know, qualitatively, there's sometimes not really as much of a distance as you would hope, you know?
Indeed. I watched, go ahead.
Oh, I've got more points.
No, straight up.
Continue.
No, it's going off on a whole other tangent. We're talking about travel. We could definitely talk about, like, the current American concept of God and how the fuck we came up with that over a long period of time. But you know, in general, I just think that people's good instincts make so much sense too. All the magic, all the best things in the world, all the good, all the love, all of that has been stamped and branded, and there are people who insist they own it. Like, any good instinct that you have, somebody is out there to take advantage of you as soon as you have that epiphany and tell you this is the way that you can express that thing that you've just realized. And if it's realizing your spiritual adaptiveness, inclination, that you have, like, a spiritual power, that you have you start to feel this love and this, like, connectedness rising in you, well, they're right there to say that is this, and the only way you can learn more about it is by putting these constraints on it and thinking about it exactly the way that we think about it. And that, you know, I think that's just awful. Even, you know, it's all the major systems that our country and our world is run on. If you want to do good for other people, they tell you gotta do business and make the most money possible. Like, that's the way that you do that. Oh, you have the inclination to take care of people. That's what you have to do. You have to be a capitalist mercilessly. Don't think about it. Put your blinders on. It's all about making more money. Period. You know, and the same thing. So, like, same thing with the spiritual inclination. The same thing with any moment where you're growing as a person. Like, somebody is trying to show up and say, right this way, you know, do it like this.
The Black Mirror episode where the guy's riding on the bike, you know, and then the end scene is, I mean, he's just sick and tired of the whole charade of existence, you know, just representing the grind of our job, and then these sort of things we see as escape, which is, you know, in this show, reality TV, more commonly now, social media, you know, social media is your way to, like, yeah, let's blow up, let's get viral, let's escape the grind, you know, and how, you know, his authentic moment at the end where he's just going to kill himself on stage, he just like brings a piece of glass and he's just going to slit his wrist, that this is immediately monetized, like, hell yeah, man, that was a great performance, like, you got to do that every night, you know, this is where we're really sucking the soul and emotions that you've had back into the system.
Or Sinners. Do you see Sinners? Sinners is basically about You know what I'm talking about, though?
No.
It was a recent movie. Basically, the idea is when somebody is really an amazing singer, performer, whatever, when they're an artist and they're in the zone, in the flow state, and they're just doing magic, that like vampires can smell that. And this kid starts playing the fuck out of his guitar at a party, and there's vampires nearby, literal vampires, and they smell it and they come right in there and start trying to bite people and suck up all that magical energy. And yeah, I've heard most people say, oh, it's capitalism, but it's more than that. It's really more like, I think what's being said and what can be said about it is that, yeah, there's a real magic, man. Like, people are capable of really amazing things. And as soon as somebody starts doing it, we still don't understand a whole lot about what we do when we enter alternate states, when we bring things into the world from the void in a very short amount of time. But yeah, it's interesting to think that the forces that would want to use it for the wrong reasons can feel it, like a shark smells blood, you know, and rush right in. So it's almost like when you go into a vulnerable state, when you go into a strong state of like being connected, it almost feels dangerous because you can feel like there's got to be an alarm for this type of thing, right? Like, I'm going off right now. Tread carefully.
One of the things on like TikTok and social media, the trend, quote unquote, that people say, like, in order to blow up, in order to get good, you got to be authentic. That's like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, it's like a literal call to like plug in to your magic to let the system harvest it. It's like, let's tune in your frequencies to best serve the algorithm machine.
That's right.
And it does work. I mean, it is essentially a magic harvester.
Yeah. Well, I mean, will what they're building be worth it in the end is like the real horrifying question of our time, I think. Like, you hear some of these people that I think my gut tells me are just evil, saying things that are like, was it the Peter Thiel interview recently where he was like asked, should humanity persevere? And he was like, well, yeah. And it makes you sick, but at the same time, when you think that, like, what if technology leads us to a place where we become so much more than we ever were before? Would it make all this racing and destroying of natural resources worth it in the end? Like, are we trying to thread a needle here where, like, there's this door closing very rapidly and we're driving a motorcycle toward the door trying to eke out right as the door closes? And, like, it looks for sure like we're going to smash into the door and that's it. But if you make it through the door, suddenly do all of these problems that are hanging us up go away? That's like a really difficult question to grapple with, because if not, you should probably you should run the motorcycle into the ground and tilt it on its side and come to a skidding halt, you know, as fast as you can and not crash into the door. But there's motherfuckers steering the society that are just going to squeeze that gas because their bets are all in. They're like, we're making it through the door. And I just think it's, who is the we? Because there's billions of people on that motorcycle, but that's right, yeah. Most of them aren't making it through the door. But I think a lot of people are willing to throw most of the people away just so any humans can make it through. It's really strange what could be on the other side of that. But yeah, we could basically end up with most humans die, and the ones who live are like immortal and a whole different creature. Was it worth it? Who's to say? The victors, like the immortals who make it through the door. I don't know.
I would give the same advice to civilization that I would give to the guy on the motorcycle, which is, you're gonna crash into the door. Yeah. You're gonna squish your head. You're not wearing a helmet, dude. Yeah. You're gonna die.
Who knows? Yeah, you should stop.
Yeah, I mean, there's some. I think it's nice to have some kind of techno optimism, only as a buffer against like horrible existential dread. Because when you're seeing like every, just the poly crisis that we have, where it seems like humanity is doomed. Like, we take away any existential risk, and there's still 7 left over that will absolutely doom us. If you dwell on it for any amount of time, it's just so easy to get like cynical and pessimistic and sad. And so having some kind of optimism somehow is comforting anyway, to say, hey, we'll grow beyond this into AI powered, techno beings. But rationally, I don't know if that makes any sense. We don't know what's in that garage,
Are we driving into the garage or out of the garage? What's weird is I was thinking about where we've gotten with technology and how that it is alchemy. Like, it's one thing that I think we need to remind ourselves, if you are so minded about all this bullshit that's going on in the world with technology advancing so quickly and using up so many resources. It's what people dreamed of at one point, and you have to admit that it's not exactly the way they dreamed of it. But for example, there were people who were sitting around and thinking, what if everyone in the world could hear my voice when I speak right now? Well, what would a person thousands of years ago who was concerned with alchemy and transformation and the growth of human beings into other, into greater states, what would they have done with not the phone, not the literal device, but like those abilities when they were first conceiving of them? Because we never would have made all this specific stuff if that's not what we wanted. We want to carry the magic mirror in our pocket that shows us everything. So we made that, and now we have it. We want, think about what we use that for. We're like, what would someone thousands of years ago have used that magic mirror that can see anything that you type into it? Like, what would they use it for? What would someone who thought, what if I could talk to someone right now on the other side of the world? What would someone thousands of years ago have used that for?
What's your thoughts?
I think very simple things. I think like coordinating, maybe even like having events and parties and ceremonies to correspond at the same moment at all different parts of the world, which I guess things like that happen, but like the amount to which it has become banal and just normal and trivial that we use these magical powers for nothing, or even just for like the degradation of our day. Or in any case, that was a thought I had the other day about like, what would these alchemists who were sitting like, what wouldn't it be an incredible miracle if my voice could be heard all around the world? Now anyone's voice can be heard all around the world, and that what has been the result, I suppose.
Yeah, we're all gods. We're all gods now.
A lot of esoteric people say that we're already living in a time when like everyone are gods and villains, and everyone has infinite potential, and so it's a very like subtle time and a very sensitive time for people to use different aspects of their ability.
You are right that we all get used to everything, because there's nothing. I mean, a baby is fascinated by everything, right? Like you don't need a toy for a 2-month-old, because the carpet is just fascinating enough. Mm-hmm. We don't need to go beyond that. That is the craziest thing it's ever saw.
Yeah, dude,
actually.
You're a baby, and it's the experience of like, I have hands,
and you just trip out over your hands for months.
I can move these things. And that's like your thing for months. That you just try and you don't even have language yet, but you're trying to show everybody like, I have a face and I have hands. Have you heard the news? Can you even believe it? That I can wiggle? Can you believe that I can wiggle? It's a miracle. Yeah.
And then you have to do mushrooms to like remember you have hands again. To remember that's actually kind of cool. But the same thing with like any single thing you lay your eyes on. I mean, we're on the 10th floor of a building. And that's just normal, but it's not really normal at all. The building is made out of sand, by the way. We're just we're just 100 feet in the air on a pile of sand. Totally normal. People live here. There's people live above me and below me. All the things that we see around us, save for the plants, but not even save for the plants, totally artificial. There's nothing you can see that's actually natural. I want to say maybe not really the house plants, because even then they're house plants. They're not even like plants,
Still natural. I mean, it's all from the earth.
Yes.
It just needed creatures that are also from the earth to, manipulate it.
Sure. Snail's shell is natural in that same way, perhaps.
It's part of the body.
Yeah. tell me more about South America and ayahuasca. Where else did you go? What else did you experience? Presumably you did ayahuasca at these other ayahuasca centers, presumably. I also wonder, do you think I kind of naively like to think that psychedelics will change people when they do them, but I've seen a lot of people not be changed by psychedelics. You know, they use it maybe as a party drug and without the right reference and in the wrong setting, and they, you know, you see them the next day, maybe a couple days later, and they're the same shitty person, you know. But obviously they do transform people's lives. What is it like doing it for months? I mean, I kind of can't imagine.
I'll try to tell like a tale that answers that prompt. I guess the first thing that I would say is it was different everywhere that I took it. So in those 3 countries, and then even within the countries, there's incredible diversity in how people take ayahuasca, even though people all over South America have been taking ayahuasca for thousands of years. In Ecuador, it was much more festive. It was like a fire in the middle with everyone around. The shamans would sing a lot of songs and play a lot of instruments, and it would go all through the night until dawn, pretty much. I loved that. That same center, they had the sweat lodge where we would enter at noon and we would come out around 10 p.m. after 4 rounds of sweating and opening the door, sweating and opening the door. I could go on and on about the sweat lodge. It's one of the most memorable things for me, but I'll continue with this view of like the whole thing. Peru, silent darkness, and I know there's a lot of different. There's the Shipibo culture, which is one of the ones that people seek out when they take ayahuasca, where they do sing icaros. I think sometimes they whistle, and this wasn't exactly that tradition, but it was fairly close to it. We would drink ayahuasca in darkness, and shaman would whistle, and then we would lie there in the dark for about 4 or 5 hours, and he would dismiss us in the middle of the night, and then he would usually just leave us in the Maloka alone. We would sleep there until morning and go back to our rooms. And then there also I did a dieta. So a dieta is a diet. It's where you eat a plant or drink a plant for an extended period of time to form a relationship with it. That's the belief of the indigenous in South America, is that by eating a plant, it speaks to you. And specifically, it can sing a song to you. That's what an icaro is. It's a song that a plant has taught you. And so the idea is, when you're working with plants, that you are ingesting it every day, concentrating on its presence, its molecules, its DNA inside your body, and letting yourself have a conversation until you can hear what is being said by that plant. So I did one of those with this plant called Ayahuasca, which is, I think, garlic vine is the common nomenclature. Drank that every day in the middle of the jungle, just me and my friend alone, like 45 minutes from the nearest village. And then twice during the week, the shaman brought ayahuasca out to drink. And that was like the farthest out that I would say that I was on that trip. Just going out into the jungle to use the bathroom with the bats flapping above your head and the spider webs and the things rustling by on ground level. And it's just the middle of the night, and it's you and 3 strangers pretty much like out in the middle of nowhere on ayahuasca. And you're like, safe, lost and safe. We're making it home. And then the last place that I took it was in Colombia, and it was much more religious, I would say. Like, it had Catholic overtones in the ceremony I went to, and I've seen other stuff in Colombia where it didn't have Catholic overtones, but was still kind of more religious, if that makes sense. At the ceremony I went to, was on Easter, and they said the Lord's Prayer with the ayahuasca. Literally, everyone held the ayahuasca up and said, "Our Father who art in heaven," in Spanish, and then drank the. It was trippy. It was wicked. But that was a weird context too, because they didn't really have a bunch of organized stuff to accommodate all those people on ayahuasca. They were like, if you have to throw up, just run over there and do it in the yard, basically. And it was a bit chaotic at times. But those are the places that I did it. The experience itself was always different. I think if people think they're going to change just by drinking ayahuasca, they're wrong. A lot of the people who came to the centers would have a lot of money and would just be looking to do every thrill ride out there. And they thought of ayahuasca as a thrill ride, like, I got to do the craziest thing. Or they'd be like, fix me. And they don't understand that you have to work on it. Like, it is a catalyst. The psychedelic is a catalyst to show you something that you need to work on, to give you the motivation that you need to work on something, but you have to maintain that state and follow through on it, or of course it will fade like very quickly. But it can, if you've never seen it before, it's worth seeing. If you need to see it again, it's worth seeing again, but you have to carry it once it's given to you.
You recommended that people take trips, that they travel. I wonder if you would recommend psychedelics to everyone in the same way, at least something to try, and if so, South America, and if so, which of these traditions?
But if you really think you need to go take ayahuasca, yes, you should go to South America. And you should do whichever way calls to you. If you think silent darkness would be terrifying, then don't go do it in silent darkness. Or maybe if you think it would be silent or terrifying, that's exactly the one that you should do. But I think that the fire with the music was the best way to be introduced to ayahuasca. The way that we did it in Ecuador. I went to Gaia Sagrada in the Andes, and it was a good place to take ayahuasca. Those songs meant a lot to me. You know, the ceremony with 30 people in it that are all taking care of each other, that meant a lot to me. I would say that is a good place to do it.
Was the altitude hard?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very mountainous, just going up and down. Like anywhere you need to go, you're going to have to go up and down a steep mountain.
Curious. All right, I've got some rapid fire questions, but we're probably going to give them to you a couple at a time because we're switching off the microphone.
All right.
Not that we couldn't stay on this conversation for 1,000 years, right. But, you know. Okay. Out of the places you've traveled, Europe, South America, where has the best food? Any particular places stick out to you as being like super good or super bad? And let's start with those.
Best food. You'd think this would be an easier question.
Or bad food. Like, geez, that country's whole cuisine sucks.
I had some strange things in Switzerland, but they were all so delicious. Like, they have horse on the menu a lot of the time in Switzerland. They'll have blood sauce, this and that. In Germany, there's a lot of things made with blood. They got Leberkäse, which is like, it means literally liver cheese. And it's like a liver paste that is a dough is made of it, and it's put into a soup, sometimes with blood, I believe. It's good, but it's strange. Food was really good. Street food in Colombia is really good. Buñuelos, empanadas, and all that, like the stuff that you can just get for cheap on the street, I loved. And I got really sick of ceviche in Peru.
Interesting.
You just eat that citrusy fish.
It's one of my favorite dishes.
They got it everywhere.
It's one of my favorite dishes, but I guess like anything, you can get sick of it if you do it enough.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What was the other question? Any place was like particular, like, wow, I didn't expect that country to be so amazing, or the opposite. And another question: what else is on your bucket list, if anything? Any country is just like you have to flee to a country you've never been to. Where'd you go?
Nowhere sucked. Nowhere makes me say, oh, that place was awful. I didn't expect it to be so awful. Except maybe some places in the United States. But bucket list, I don't know, man. Bucket list is getting weird because I've done a lot of the things, and it's hard to conceive of what I'm going to want when I'm 10 years older than I am now. Yeah. So, the bucket list things are coming. But I would like to cross the ocean on a sailboat.
Oh, I mean countries specifically.
Yeah, no, I know.
Or generally.
Yep, yeah.
Okay.
So that would entail going, I guess it could be back to Europe, but yes, I want to go to Japan for an extended period of time. I want to get a couple more languages down. Japanese I find pretty easy, so I would like to learn enough Japanese to go spend some time in Japan. And Eastern Europe has always been really attractive to me. I would love to go through really just, that's the part of the world that I've been researching the most since my last trip, is like the Caucasus almost, of like that region that's not the Middle East, and it's not Russia, and it's not China, that's like Azerbaijan. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Azerbaijan, even like Mongolia, those places that are just that strip through the middle of Asia.
Oh, like Central Asia,
Central Asia,
Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan,
Kyrgyzstan. Oh yeah, I would love to spend an extended period of time that part of the world. I would love it if they would just let the Middle East become one single united gigantic country with nukes, like they deserve to be, like every other region the world has, because Islam is not just going to pull the trigger and nuke everybody, dude. The Christians are trying to do literally that right now, like terrorizing the world. Stop being afraid of a united Middle East, because then we could let them actually overthrow systems themselves, as they have done many, many times in the past, to make sensible reform and give people all the freedoms that we enjoy here. And then we could go and we could visit all of those wonderful historic places throughout that historic region that stretches all the way from the Mediterranean damn near to India. I would love to travel in the Middle East. It's pretty much every country in the Middle East.
The world is a really big place. So, ideally, if you're at some spiritual level, you're okay with the concept of death, and a bucket list is, not it's a conversation topic rather than a need to have, but it's something, a lot of people say, if they say I've been to country X and you say I haven't been to country X, they'll say, this is just the common response. It's like, how are you? I'm good. I'm fine. What have you eaten today? The response is, you should go. You should really go. You should really go to Ireland. Like, man, you got to go to Ireland. Like, okay, there's...
Oh, man, I've never been to Azerbaijan. You should.
You got to go, man. You got to go to Kyrgyzstan. Like, I mean, how many people have been to every country in the world? A small handful, and they're insane lunatics with crazy piles of money, And then even, you talk about traveling in the U.S., I always think of this concept where, let's say I go to Chicago and you go to Chicago. We've both been to Chicago. We both did the same thing as going to Chicago, but we had just wildly different experiences based on, it's a big city, right? It's way, 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 way smaller than almost any country, but it's still a huge city. So like, where did you go? And then most of what an experience is, good, bad, or in between, is the people you meet. So what people did you meet? And do you know them? And do you spend time with them? And what happened with them? And then like, we're just different people. So just, we meet the same people in the same place at the same time. We're still having different experiences, and that's just visiting a city. So there's this, you could, again, just travel to all the little towns in Germany for 20 years, and have like cool, interesting experiences without ever leaving the country. So it is, I don't know, maybe it was a really good answer, but people like to collect countries,
It's the same thing as the psychedelic thing. It's not going to fix you to do anything. You could be like, oh, you got to go to Ireland. Okay, so you could go to Ireland and be a grumpy piece of shit and not absorb anything. Or you could go there and be like, I'm enraptured. I can hear the bones of my ancestors from Ireland speaking to me. I'm gonna walk to the well and like wash my hands and whatever the fuck. There was a creepy well at the place that I stayed in Ireland where people would come to like wash themselves with magic. Anyway,
cool. I didn't know they had magical wells.
In any case, yeah, like going and having an experience is not going to change you unless you are changing yourself. You're harnessing that catalyst to change yourself. I'm trying to think of like a dumb metaphor with exercise or something when I can't properly think of one. It would be like if you were drinking a bunch of like crazy expensive pre-workout and formula stuff, thinking like that was going to make you ripped, and then you were doing 10 minutes of exercise and being like, why isn't this shit working?
Yeah.
Because you have to work, and that's like in your brain with psychedelics, or in your, I don't know, with travel. It might be in like your friendliness. Like you really have to be open and willing to meet people to get the most out of travel, and that means taking the chance to walk up to a group of strangers and just say, hi, my name is whoever, or hey, do you guys like this song, or can I buy you a beer, or whatever. You have to go up to the random strangers and make those connections, because that's what you learn when you're American the most abroad, dude, is that people are really nice most of the other places in the world. And even though you're an American, you're going to walk up and they're going to fucking be nice to you and help you. And so, like, when somebody comes up to you and is looking for help here and you treat them like shit, boy, it's like they would never do that to you. You're really teaching people something with your unkindness. You got to be open.
I've got to push back on your implicit judgment of Americans right now. Most tourists you meet who travel to America say Americans are super nice and friendly and they love them mostly. And my experience with Americans is the same, that they're mostly, super, at least kind and nice. I think there is maybe something about familiarity breeding contempt because, I've been visiting a lot of churches, and I think that's just such a great case in point that when I go to have an experience at a church, they're all lovely people. They're all super nice to me. They're all very welcoming and inviting. And I think they'd be the same way to, I don't want to say every stranger, many strangers, Yet, a lot of the churches hate each other because they're different. Like, there's so much, like, interreligious, just, like, hatred. And many people hate churches because not of their actual interactions with the people, because of, like, beliefs that are associated with that church or something that they've, like, seen in the news about that church. So if you, go to, meet some guy on the street in Colombia and, you have a couple of beers with Ramon and it's a great, beautiful experience, I'll bet, you dig deeply into his beliefs and thoughts and everything he said. Like, you could find something to be angry about if that's what you're after, so I don't know. I guess it's just the levels of analysis on which I think there's people find it easy to hate people they are very familiar with because a lot of those things.
No, I agree with what you're saying for sure. Like, you can, that you could talk to that guy, Ramon, and find out that he's incredibly bigoted or whatever else, that, like, people might be really friendly even though they have some deeply held belief that might be a problem. But I think it's easier to see in the context of Americans abroad. Like, when you're an American abroad and you are trying to learn the language and you are trying to accommodate to another person's culture, it's so obvious to you how high the percentages of Americans traveling that are just completely oblivious and don't give a fuck about anyone else. The Americans abroad. It's so staggering, and everyone there knows it. And so, like, you get judged as an American. You can feel it. They're like, oh, great, an American. You don't give a fuck about me. You're not
their
gonna...
judgment makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
It comes from experience.
It comes from experience. So, yeah, I think a lot of people, when they come here and they have the right attitude about travel, and they might not speak all that much English, but they're like, yeah, I'm on an adventure. They're going to be friendly with people, and people are going to be friendly back. People on a base level, person to person, can be friendly. But I think that the amount that people are willing to help and really welcome you into their world and their space is maybe lower in America. That I would say, like, I had situations where people were just giving me rides that didn't trust me at all in such weird contexts of, like, climb on the back of my motorcycle, or you can stay with my friend, or, just immediately wanting to give you an opportunity because you're a stranger, and that's something that is interesting and uncommon maybe for a particular small town. So they want to help you, and I think in, like, especially in small towns in the United States, you might find that would be more difficult to do, to just be like, oh, you're from where? Yeah, you can stay with my friend today. That's maybe not so much the case here.
You were right. There's cultural differences in hospitality, and we're not famously high in hospitality as a culture.
Unless you have money.
How do you mean?
If you can pay, then we're incredibly hospitable.
I don't know if I count that, but you're right. All right, that's it. That's all the questions I got for this podcast anyway.
Great. Do you want to talk about the sweat lodge?
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the sweat lodge just a little bit, because that, I think, was the most interesting part of ayahuasca. So if you are going to cut this together, I want to give you a little bit of that. So in the sweat lodge, like I said, there's 4 rounds, and each round that you snort tobacco water, then you pray with the tobacco. These things rotate inside the sweat, and then they bring 13 hot stones out of the fire, about yay big, and put them in the middle of the sweat lodge, and then they shut the door and they dump eucalyptus water on those hot rocks, and it's pitch black and very hot and very sweaty, and someone's playing the drum and everyone is singing and chanting for about 20 minutes. So that happens 4 times, but it takes about 12 hours. So you're in there for about 45 minutes every time the door closes, and when the door opens, there's lots of talking, lots of airing out, lots of, the shaman talks on and on and on about different lessons and experiences. And each time you also drink more medicine. So they give you San Pedro all 4 doors, and then in one of the doors they give you ayahuasca as well.
That's a lot of drugs.
Yeah. And but dude, by the 4th door, you know, many people are thinking they're gonna shit themselves. Like I was certainly in the position of being 100% sure that I was going to shit myself, and that I needed to just accept that, because, you know, trying to prevent it any longer was just going to cause me distress. I didn't do it, but I was sure. You see flashes of light in there in the pitch darkness that other people will see. You know, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that one part of the song there was like blue lightning," and they'll be like, "Yes." Like, you have these shared experiences in there that are crazy. I had this experience where I could really feel someone else's presence, and then that person came up to me and thanked me after the ceremony for helping them through, you know. Crazy things happen in that 4th door when you're on both the ayahuasca and the San Pedro.
The ayahuasca and the San Pedro and the heat.
And the heat and the
tobacco.
And the no water and the no food, you know, it's 12 hours. You really start to enter a state that...
Talking about stacking things.
No exaggeration. Like, it's a hard state to enter into. You know, it takes a lot of alterations to your environment and to your system to get there. But that was wild, and that was where ayahuasca got the weirdest for me. I would have visual hallucinations that looked like, do you remember Real Monsters?
No, I was homeschooled.
Oh, well, they had TV at home. And Real Monsters, there was the 3 monsters, you know, Ickis, Crumb, and Oblina. And Oblina was like a black and white striped umbrella handle looking creature, like a noodle with huge lips and eyes. And I would see these crazy hallucinations of like societies of those creatures that were all different colors and shapes, and they were all dancing around on the ceiling of the sweat lodge, and that's what I remember. I remember that I felt like I was a single creature with my puke and the bucket. Like, the puke was connecting me to the bucket, and we were all, me, the puke, and the bucket, a single being. Just kind of circularly existing.
That's hardcore. I don't know how we're gonna be able to cut that down to 1 minute, but we'll try. We'll give it a shot.
You're gonna cut this whole podcast down to 1 minute?
No way. Impossible. Yeah, I think there's just so much more value in this long form content, and the things I always enjoy that I'm proud of are always long form things, but no one watches it. So that's the trade-off. I feel like with making short form things, I'm just like a drug dealer, you know?
Well, yeah, I totally understand. And you were even really authentic the other day in your climbing in trees thing. You're tapping in, you're trying to give them your magic.
I love that.
And
no one cared, but I thought it was nice.
The thing about a long form, dude, is it has to be interesting enough for people to actually want to watch it. And so it has to not only be interesting for you, but it has to be, you know, different guests, different topics of conversation that are relevant now, you know, and have never been more relevant than they are right now. And just staying in those topics and like getting to the meat of them, I think, is what makes people tune in. But I don't know.
Maybe
people don't tune in and they never will.
Thank you, Bobby. That was beautiful.